Number 1. Last night while working, my girlfriend and I saw a strange man multiple times in multiple locations. I have a delivery company and make night deliveries often. My girlfriend comes along some nights so she's not home alone and to help me out. We often see drunks and prostitutes and after-party people out and about. This guy was different. We got to a gas station about 3 a.m. to drop off some items for them. The station is closed, but they have a drop box for me. When we arrived, I noticed a car moving very slowly along the highway, about maybe 5 miles per hour on a 70-mile-per-hour highway. I turned into the station, and as I parked, I noticed the car pulled in as well, slowly creeping up to the gas pumps. The car was a silver car, maybe a late 90s model. It looked like a Cadillac or something similar. On the driver's door, it had 3 numbers stuck on it. 542, I think, in those mailbox address numbers. I thought to myself, no big deal, just a drunk getting gas. He got out and opened his tank and put the nozzle in all the while staring at me. This wouldn't be a problem, except he was faking getting gas. This station turns their pumps off at night. He stood pretending to fill up the whole time I was there, about 5 to 10 minutes. He was a black male, tall and skinny, wearing an old 50s-looking suit, dark-colored, and a white fedora with a dark-colored band. I'm a big guy, 6'2", 220 pounds, strong, and imposing. However, this guy didn't seem affected or bothered at all. He just stared. Then he walked around his car and stood on the passenger side, staring at me. I left after finishing my work, and went to the next stop, no big deal, until I got to the next one. I didn't even see him at first, but I finished my work and began to drive off, and around the corner on the back side, I saw the car, 542 on the side, and there he was, leaning against the building with a cigarette. He turned and faced me and stared. My girlfriend was getting anxious now. This area is a low-population rural area, and there's no reason for this guy to be hanging out at these places, and now he's at 2 different ones I go to. I tell her not to worry, he's just some idiot who doesn't want to go home. I go about my business, keeping an eye out for him, and do my next 3 stops until suddenly at the 4th, there it is, 542, parked outside of a closed business. Mind you, this is miles away. This time he's sitting on my drop box. This looked like a message. I've had enough at this point. My girlfriend tells me to just leave and come back later, but I'm beyond that at this point. I used to do contract security. I'm not afraid of some conflict, and I'm not a pushover. So I scan the area and make sure he doesn't have any friends around, and I get out. He just stares. I say, "Listen, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I've seen you more than I should have tonight. Now you're on my box and blocking my work. You need to leave. Now." He just stares, but I'm not budging. He's messing with my money now, and that doesn't work. I say, "You're not cute. You're asking for trouble now. Get the hell off my box and get out of here." He stands, but stays in my way and stares. I'm this close to just punching him in the face at this point, until I see his eyes widen and he gets in his car and drives off. I then realize 2 police officers pulled into the lot, I assumed to see what we were doing or talk. One followed him as he drove away. The other asked me if everything was okay. They know me out there as they see me nightly. I told him what happened, and he said they were looking for him, as he has been menacing people like that often. I don't know if he's done anything to anyone yet, but at least they found him now. Number 2. I'm female, live in Greece, and this happened in July 2011. I'm not using my actual account because a couple of my friends also use Reddit, and I'd rather they didn't read this. I was 16 years old, and me and the rest of my class rented and went to a villa for the weekend in a small village. We didn't do much. We basically just ate, drank, and watched horror movies. One boy from my class, we'll call him Tom, didn't really want to spend the evenings with us, and instead would go on walks around the neighborhood. Tom was a loner with a drinking problem. Still, he was a nice guy. I was the only one he was close to. The others didn't talk to him that much. Saturday evening, I decided to go walking around with him. I was bored with constantly being with my class. It was 10:30 p.m. and pitch black outside. But since pretty much only elderly people lived in that village, I assumed we were safe. We walked and talked about random stuff for maybe an hour. Suddenly, we heard men shouting and laughing loudly, obviously very drunk. We still didn't see them. They were behind the corner. I got worried and asked Tom to go back to the villa. He said he wasn't scared. I had a strong feeling of dread, so I was like, fuck it, and started running back to the villa. I assumed Tom was also going to come, but he remained there. I continued running and didn't look back. After I had almost arrived at the villa, I blamed myself for being so scared over nothing. After all, having a few drinks on Saturday night is not a crime. Those guys probably weren't dangerous or anything. I got inside the villa, had a snack, and went to bed. I woke up 2 hours later due to my classmates shouting and freaking out in the hallway. I went to see what was happening, and almost all of them were standing around the sofa in the living room. I pushed them aside and saw Tom sitting on the couch. It was absolutely horrific. His entire face was covered with blood. He had lots of blood on his clothes, too. He could barely speak, but he said he fell from some bridge. I assumed he was lying, and was in fact attacked by those people, but I didn't say anything. Obviously, we called an ambulance, we called his parents, and he was taken to the hospital. The following day, we all went to visit him. His entire face was bruised. His right arm and both legs were in casts. We begged him to tell us what had happened. He still claimed he fell from a bridge. His parents then asked us to leave, so we left. Some of my classmates speculated he might have jumped from the bridge on purpose, since he drank so much and maybe suffered from depression. My classmates started going home, but I and my friend stayed, because we needed to use the restroom. My friend got out of the restroom first and waited for me outside. When I got out, she told me she had heard some nurses talk about Tom, saying his injuries weren't caused by a fall. Someone had beaten him up. My heart sank. I still didn't mention those drunk guys. I was afraid my classmates and Tom's parents might blame me for leaving him alone. After several more days, some of my classmates and I went to visit Tom again. My classmates left after some time. I stayed. His parents weren't in the room, so I asked Tom to tell me what really happened, and why he claimed he had fallen from a bridge. He said after I started running, he kept walking. As he was walking past those drunk, possibly also drugged up guys, one of them started messing with him. Tom pretended he didn't notice, and kept walking. That guy started following him, and so did the others. Tom asked them if there was a problem, and they started laughing and swearing. At that point, he noticed one of the guys, 4 in total, was carrying a lead pipe. He tried to run away. One of the guys grabbed his arm and threw him to the ground, yelling at Tom that he'd kill him. Then they started kicking him and hitting him with the pipe. He lost consciousness. He woke up at one point and started crawling back to our villa. He couldn't stand up. He said he later realized they had stolen his wallet and his watch. As he was telling me all this, he just kept staring in one direction. As I listened, I actually started crying, but his expression remained serious. I begged him to tell his parents and the police. He refused. The doctors had obviously already called the police several days before, but he had refused to press any charges. I don't know why. He wouldn't tell me. After about a week, he got out of the hospital. He never showed up at school, though. They said he switched schools. I never saw him again. I feel extremely guilty this happened to him. I feel I shouldn't have left him by himself. What bothers me even more is those psychopaths are still somewhere out there.